On February 8, 2028, at 2:34 inches the afternoon, 3 babies were born in a public hospital in Washington Heights, Manhattan. Their mother was 24 years old. She had no attorney, no husband in the building, no family except one best friend who had not left her side in 11 hours. She named them Zion, Aria, Elle. She held them one by one through the glass of the neonatal unit. She could not hold them properly yet. They were too early, too small, and she pressed her fingertips against the glass and whispered the same thing to each of them. She told them she was not gone, she was working, and she was coming back. Then a man in a grey suit arrived at her hospital room with a leather briefcase and documents for her to sign. She signed them. She had no choice. 6 years later, her son Zion, the eldest by 4 minutes, sat down at his father's computer on a quiet Thursday evening, looking for an atlas. What he found instead would collapse a $6 billion empire, send a woman named Stephanie Cole to federal prison, and bring 3 children across Manhattan to the lobby of a company their mother built from nothing. This is the story of Viola Jones. And it starts the way all the most important stories start, with a woman standing outside in the cold, with nowhere to go and everything to prove. It is 11:47 at night on a Tuesday in February 2028. The lobby of 432 Park Avenue, one of the most expensive residential buildings in the history of New York City, is empty, except for 2 security guards and a woman in a grey maternity dress carrying a duffel bag that is not even fully zipped. Her name is Viola Jones Harmon. She is 24 years old. She is 34 weeks pregnant with triplets. And she has just been told by her husband of 2 years, Derek Harmon, CEO of Harmon Capital Group, one of the most powerful names in New York real estate, that she has 1 hour to collect her things and leave their home. She does not cry in the lobby. She learned a long time ago in a 2-bedroom apartment in Crown Heights, when she was 8 years old, watching her mother cry for 6 straight months after they lost everything, that crying in lobbies solves absolutely nothing. She walks through the revolving door. February in Manhattan hits her like a wall. She stands on the sidewalk outside one of the most expensive buildings in the world, 34 weeks pregnant, and she calls the only person she calls when the world falls apart. Denise picks up on the second ring. Viola tells her she needs her to come, that she is outside 432 Park. 4 seconds of silence. Then Denise says she is already in the car. To understand what happened that night, you have to go back 3 weeks. To a Tuesday morning in January, when Stephanie Cole, CFO of Harmon Capital Group, 10-year veteran of the firm, and the one person at the company who knew every wire, every account, every system better than Derek himself, walked into Derek's corner office on the 47th floor and placed a folder on his desk. Inside that folder, 12 wire transfer records, 8 months of transactions, a total of $4.2 million moved from a Harmon Capital operating account to a Delaware shell company. The shell company had one documented connection to Harmon Capital Group, Viola Jones Harmon. Derek looked at the folder for a long time. He looked at the name. He looked at Stephanie. He asked her if she was certain. She told him she had 3 forensic accountants review it. She told him she was sorry. What Derek did not know, what he would not discover for 6 more years, was that Stephanie Cole had spent 4 months constructing every single one of those records, every wire transfer, every timestamp, every connection to Viola, fabricated from scratch by a woman who had spent a decade learning exactly how Harmon Capital's internal systems worked. But Stephanie had a second reason for framing Viola, a deeper one. Since 2026, she had been quietly moving real money out of Harmon Capital, not $4 million, not $40 million. Nearly $900 million over 2 years, routed through 11 offshore accounts in 4 countries. She had built an exit strategy so careful and so layered that it would take federal investigators years to fully unwind it. Viola's frame-up was never just about removing a wife who was in the way. It was about creating a distraction big enough that nobody looked at Stephanie's books. Derek confronted Viola that night. He showed her the folder. He did not ask for her explanation first. He told her what he had been told, and then he waited. Viola looked at those records for a long time. She had 4 years of Columbia real estate finance in her head, and she could see the construction in the timestamps, the slight misalignment in the routing codes. The Delaware shell company registered 6 weeks before the first transfer. when a genuine embezzler would have set it up years in advance. She could see that this was built, not grown. But she was 34 weeks pregnant, her hands were shaking, and the man she had trusted most in the world was looking at her like she was a stranger who had wandered into his apartment. She told him the records were fake, that she could show him exactly how. Derek told her he had 3 forensic accountants. She told him she did not care how many accountants Stephanie showed him, that Stephanie made those records, that she could prove it if he gave her time. Derek told her she was already blaming Stephanie. Then he told her she needed to leave that night, that his lawyers would be in touch. That was the conversation. That was all of it. 3 weeks after being removed from 432 Park Avenue, Viola goes into labor. She is 34 weeks along, 6 weeks early. The stress has done what stress does to a body that is trying to hold 3 lives at once. New York Presbyterian Hospital, Washington Heights. The city is dark and cold outside. Inside, the fluorescent lights hum the same, regardless of what is happening underneath them. Denise holds her hand for 11 hours. At 2:34 inches the afternoon on February 8, 2028, Zion is born. 4 minutes later, Aria. 6 minutes after that, Elle. All 3 are small. All 3 are breathing. The NICU nurses are calm and efficient, and they have seen this before. Viola can hear her children crying from 3 separate incubators, and she cannot hold any of them yet, and she stares at the ceiling of her recovery room and makes herself breathe in and out until the shaking stops. Derek Harmon does not come. His attorney does. Richard Vance, a partner at Sullivan & Cromwell, arrives at 9 p.m. with a leather briefcase and an expression of practiced neutrality that he has spent 20 years perfecting. He places a set of documents on the tray table beside Viola's hospital bed. The documents grant Derek Harmon temporary sole custody of all 3 children, pending resolution of the fraud investigation. Viola's signature is required within the next 48 hours. She reads every page. Twice, with a headache and no glasses and the sound of her 3 newborns somewhere down the hall. She signs. Richard Vance closes his briefcase, says thank you, and leaves. Denise, who has been standing against the wall so still she was almost invisible, walks to the bed and sits beside Viola and puts one hand over hers. Neither of them speaks for 2 full minutes. Then Viola asks Denise to get her a pen and a notepad. Denise asks what for. Viola tells her she needs to write down everything she remembers about those wire records, before she forgets anything. Denise gets her a pen and a notepad. Viola starts writing. Viola moves back to Crown Heights, not back to her parents. Her mother Beverly is in a senior assisted living facility in Flatbush, early onset dementia, doesn't always recognize her own daughter when she visits. Her father Raymond died in 2021. A quiet heart attack in a Queens apartment. He had never rebuilt a single thing. She rents a room from a woman named Miss Gloria on Nostrand Avenue, $650 a month. The room has 1 window, 1 outlet that works reliably, and enough space for a bed, a desk, and her determination. She shares a bathroom with 2 other tenants. She is 24 years old. She grew up in a 4,000 square foot penthouse on Central Park West, and she is now in a room smaller than the closet of that apartment. She does not think about the apartment. She gets a job. Meridian Property Management on Jamaica Avenue in Queens. A small firm handling residential buildings across southeast Queens, leaky pipes, noise complaints, delinquent rents, the unglamorous infrastructure of a city that nobody thinks about until something breaks. Her title is bookkeeper. Her salary is $17 an hour. She is catastrophically overqualified. She takes it anyway, because it is the one job she can get in under a week that is connected, however distantly, to real estate. Every Saturday she takes the A train to Washington Heights and sits in the waiting area of the family court building on 170th Street. She is reviewing custody filings and learning the vocabulary of a legal system she has never had to understand before. She cannot afford an attorney. Denise, who works as a paralegal at Goldstein and Associates in Midtown, prints documents for Viola during lunch breaks and teaches her how to read them over the phone at night. The fraud investigation against Viola is closed in October 2028. No charges, no evidence that held up to actual scrutiny. The shell company could not be traced further, and without a cooperating witness, the case went nowhere. Derek's attorneys send a letter confirming the closure. They note that custody arrangements remain unchanged, pending formal family court proceedings. Derek does not call. Viola files her own custody petition in November 2028. No attorney. The petition is 31 pages. She wrote it herself. The family court judge, the Honorable Sandra Park, looks at the petition, looks at Viola sitting alone at the respondent's table in a blazer she borrowed from Denise, and looks at the 4 attorneys from Harmon Capital's retained family law firm sitting across from her with their matching briefcases. She asks Viola if she has representation. Viola tells her not yet. Judge Park continues the case for 60 days. She does not say anything else, but the way she looks at those 4 attorneys when she says it suggests that she has thoughts. During the months when the triplets are transitioning to Derek's penthouse care, Viola is permitted supervised visits twice per week under the temporary court order. Every Tuesday and Thursday at 10 in the morning, she takes the 4 train to 59th Street, walks to 432 Park Avenue, and spends 2 hours with 3 babies who do not yet understand what is happening, but who calm down when she holds them in a way they do not calm down for anyone else. Every visit, she presses her forehead to each of theirs and whispers the same thing. She tells them she is not gone. She is working. She is coming back. By spring of 2029, Viola has been at Meridian for 14 months. In that time, she has reorganized their entire accounting system, identified $340,000 in annual billing errors they had been hemorrhaging for years without knowing it, and renegotiated 2 vendor contracts that cut operating costs by 18%. Her boss gives her a $2 raise. Viola thanks him and starts attending every free real estate industry event in New York City that will let her through the door. She goes as a volunteer, as a guest, as whoever they need at the sign-in table. In March of 2029, she works the registration desk at an Urban Land Institute luncheon at the Midtown Hilton. The keynote speaker is Marcus Solomon, founder of the Solomon Group, a $1.4 billion Harlem-based real estate development firm, self-made. First building purchased in the South Bronx in 1995 with a $40,000 loan from a church credit union. After the applause dies and the room starts to empty, Viola approaches him. His assistant is already hovering with a phone and a schedule. She can see she has 4 minutes, maybe less. She uses 2 of them. She tells him specifically with data she has memorized, not printed, not on a phone, the one assumption in his South Bronx thesis that she believes is directionally correct, but timed 18 months too late, based on 3 leading indicators she has been tracking in the city's property assessment records. Marcus Solomon looks at her for a long moment. He asks who she works for. She tells him Meridian Property Management, Queens. He tells her he has never heard of them. She tells him most people haven't. He asks her name. She tells him, Viola Jones. He tells her to send him her resume. 6 weeks later, she is Marcus Solomon's Director of Asset Analysis at Solomon Group, base salary $165,000. Her first week, she submits an acquisition analysis on 4 distressed residential buildings in the South Bronx that Marcus has been sitting on undecided for 2 years. Her recommendation is clear. The financial modeling is airtight. The 7-year projected return is 340%. Marcus approves all 4 acquisitions the following Monday. He does not tell her that every other analyst on his team had recommended passing. The custody case runs from November 2028 to June 2030. 19 months. Derek's team argues financial instability, impermanent housing, and the disruption risk of changing the children's established care environment. Viola, now represented by Christine Obi, a family law attorney with 15 years of experience, who agreed to take her case after reading Viola's self-filed petition and calling it, quietly to her paralegal, the most organized pro se filing she had seen in 15 years of practice, argues that the children's mother is employed, stable, and was removed from the marital home based on fraud allegations, formally closed without charges. Judge Park awards increasing supervised visitation through 2029. Twice weekly becomes 4 times weekly. Overnight visits begin in December 2029. In June 2030, she awards joint legal custody. Primary physical custody remains with Derek pending a housing stability review. It is not everything, but it is the turn. Zion is 2 years old when the joint custody order is signed. He reaches for Viola's face with both hands when she picks him up in the courthouse hallway, and he does not let go for a very long time. By the end of 2030, Viola has been at Solomon Group for 18 months. She has closed $340 million in acquisitions. She has also been quietly building a personal real estate portfolio, 4 properties, all in neighborhoods she knows from growing up, all purchased at distressed prices using every dollar she has saved since Meridian, plus a $50,000 personal loan from Denise, who absolutely cannot afford it and gives it to her anyway, without being asked. In January 2031, she walks into Marcus Solomon's office and tells him she is leaving to start her own firm. He leans back in his chair and looks at her for a long time. He asks her what she needs. She tells him $2 million in seed capital. He asks her what the firm is called. She tells him Nova Capital Group. He asks what Nova stands for. She thinks for a moment. Then she tells him nothing, that she just needed something that did not sound like someone's last name. Marcus writes the check in March 2031. Nova Capital Group is incorporated in the state of New York on March 15, 2031. Its first office is 600 square feet in a building on the edge of Hudson Yards that Marcus owns and rents to her at below market rate for the first year. Viola Jones is 27 years old. She has nothing but the right idea at the right time, and the kind of work ethic that only comes from watching everything get taken from you twice. Nova Capital's investment thesis is specific. Acquire undervalued commercial and mixed-use properties in New York City neighborhoods in the early stages of demographic and economic transition before institutional money arrives and prices correct. It works because Viola grew up in those neighborhoods. She knows Crown Heights and Bed-Stuy and the South Bronx and East Harlem, not as data points on a fund manager's spreadsheet, but as places where she ate, went to school, rode the train, and watched her family go from a penthouse to a 2-bedroom in the space of one financial crisis. She knows which blocks are changing before the appraisers do, because she was there when nothing was changing, and she knows what the early signals look like before they become obvious. By the end of 2031, Nova manages $180 million in assets. By mid-2032, $800 million. In February 2033, Forbes publishes its annual Women Reshaping Real Estate feature. Viola Jones is on the cover. She is 29 years old. Nova Capital is valued at $2.4 billion. The headline reads, "She bought the block. Then, she bought the borough." The magazine hits newsstands on a Tuesday. By Thursday, it is available at the Hudson News kiosk in the lobby of 432 Park Avenue. A copy makes its way upstairs. It is hidden behind an atlas on a bookshelf in Derek Harmon's private study, cover facing the wall. He does not throw it away. The triplets turn 6 years old on February 8, 2034. Their relationship with Viola is deep and lived in. Zion tells her everything in the long, quiet way of a child who has decided that someone is safe. Aria reads her journal entries aloud on FaceTime and asks her mother to tell her honestly if they are good. Elle calls every Sunday evening at 7 o'clock exactly, without being reminded, and gives Viola a precise summary of the week's events, the way a very small chief of staff might brief a very busy executive. But on the weeks they are at 432 Park, they live in a world of schedules and nannies and a father who is physically present in a way that does not fully reach them. Zion at 6 is remarkable. He learned to read at 3. He completed every Khan Academy mathematics module through 6th grade level before his 5th birthday. He taught himself basic coding syntax from YouTube tutorials on the family iPad. He is not showing off. He is simply following his curiosity wherever it leads. He had navigated around the parental controls on the iPad within 2 weeks of receiving it. He said nothing about this. He continued to pretend the controls were working. Aria is on her 4th journal. Every entry begins, "Dear Mom." She draws pictures of Viola from memory, not from photographs, from memory, and she gets the jaw right, and the eyes right, and the way Viola tilts her head when she is listening right. She has been getting it right for 3 years. Elle watches Stephanie Cole. Stephanie attends the charity galas. She comes to the penthouse for quarterly board dinners. She always brings the triplets extravagant gifts, the kind that feel like they are performing generosity rather than expressing it. Elle has never accepted a gift from Stephanie Cole. When she is asked why, She says she does not want it. When she is pressed, she says nothing further. She told her nanny once, very matter-of-factly, that Miss Stephanie smiles with her mouth but not her eyes, that her teacher says that means someone is lying. On a Thursday evening in March 2034, Derek is working late at the office. The triplets are with Patricia. Aria is at the kitchen table drawing. Elle is in the living room reading. Zion is in the study. He is not supposed to be in the study. He knows this. He is in the study because Derek's bookshelf contains a 1,987 atlas of New York City that shows every neighborhood boundary and historical district line, which Zion wants for a mapping project. He has been working on that. He will not fully explain to anyone. He finds the atlas. He pulls it from the shelf. Something falls out from behind it onto the floor. A Forbes magazine, March 2033, the cover facing downward. He picks it up and turns it over. He reads slowly, tracing the words with one finger the way he does when he is reading something that matters. She bought the block. Then she bought the borough. He looks at the photograph for a very long time. Then he carries the magazine down the hall to Aria's room and stands in the doorway without speaking. Aria looks up from her drawing. She looks at the magazine. She looks at the drawing she finished 40 minutes ago, the one of the woman she has been drawing from memory since she was 3 years old. She holds them up side by side. They do not speak for almost a full minute. Then Elle appears in the doorway behind Zion. She has been listening from the hallway. She says quietly that she knew, that she just did not know her name yet. Zion tears the cover page carefully from the magazine along the spine. He folds it into quarters and puts it in the pocket of his uniform trousers. Then he says he is going back to the study. What Zion does next is not a plan in the way that adults make plans. It is a thread being followed by a 6-year-old who does not yet know that he is supposed to stop pulling. He sits down at Derek's desktop computer. The Harmon Capital internal portal is open in a browser tab from Derek's morning session. Zion types his mother's name into the portal's search bar. 6 results, all marked closed, all dated 2027 and 2028. He opens the first file. Wire transfer records, numbers and account codes and dates. He does not understand all of it. But he sees his mother's name and he sees another name that appears on every single document. Stephanie Cole. He searches Stephanie Cole's name in the personnel directory. Her name connects to an administrator-level account. A password field appears. He thinks for a moment. He goes to the browser history. He finds a stored credential in the password manager that Derek never cleared. He clicks autofill. He is in. He opens folders. He is looking for more files connected to his mother. What he finds instead are folders organized by year, going back to 2026. Each one contains wire transfers to external account numbers he does not recognize. The numbers are very large. He does not know what $900 million means in the way that an adult would know it. He knows it is very many of something. He takes Derek's phone from the charging pad on the desk. He photographs every screen. He opens an email address he found at the bottom of an old document in his mother's files, an alumni address connected to her name, and he emails all the photographs to it. Then he keeps clicking. He finds a folder at the deepest level of Stephanie's directory. It is labeled Exit Protocol. He opens it. There is a script connected to Harmon Capital's trading platform. There is a button that says Execute. Zion is 6 years old. He has been following this thread for 42 minutes. He is tired. He clicks it. What happens in the next 12 minutes will make the front page of the Wall Street Journal, the Financial Times, Bloomberg, and CNBC by 7 o'clock the following morning. The exit protocol script, which Stephanie Cole built as her personal escape mechanism, triggers a cascade of automated short positions against Harmon Capital Group's publicly traded real estate investment trust across the New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, and 2 alternative trading platforms. $6 billion in assets begins moving in the wrong direction. Zion closes every browser tab. He puts Derek's phone back on the charger in the exact position he found it. He replaces the Forbes magazine behind the atlas with the cover facing the wall. He replaces the atlas on the shelf. He walks to the kitchen. He gets a glass of water. He drinks it at the kitchen sink and watches the city lights through the window. Derek's phone begins vibrating at 2:04 the morning. By 6 a.m., HCG REIT trading has been halted by the New York Stock Exchange pending investigation. By 7, the SEC's Division of Enforcement has flagged the transaction pattern as potentially manipulative. By 8, the story is running on Bloomberg, the Wall Street Journal, and CNBC simultaneously. By 9, Harmon Capital's full board of directors has been called into emergency session. By 10, Derek's IT security team has traced the origin of the breach. To the desktop computer in the private study of the penthouse at 432 Park Avenue, Derek walks into the study. Everything looks exactly as he left it yesterday morning. He checks the browser history. Cleared. He checks the desktop activity log. It shows 42 minutes of activity beginning at 8:47 the previous evening, while Derek was at the office. He walks down the hall. Patricia is making breakfast. Aria is eating cereal. Elle is reading a chapter book she has already read twice. Zion is sitting at the kitchen table with his hands flat on the surface, looking at his orange juice. Not drinking it, looking at it. Derek stands in the kitchen doorway for a moment. Then he walks to the table and sits down across from his 6-year-old son. He says his name. Zion says, "Yes, Dad." Derek asks if he was in the study the night before. Zion tells him he was looking for the atlas, the 1987 New York one. Derek asks if he touched the computer. A pause. Longer this time. Zion reaches into the pocket of his pajamas and unfolds the Forbes cover page, soft at the creases now, from 2 weeks of being carried, and places it flat on the kitchen table between them. He tells his father he found Mom. Derek goes completely still. He looks down at the magazine page. At the headline, at the photograph of a woman he put out of his home 6 years ago, standing in front of a building that bears the name of something she built from nothing. He picks it up. He reads it. He sets it down. And then Derek Harmon, CEO of Harmon Capital Group, Princeton and Wharton, educated, third generation of one of Connecticut's oldest money families, slides off his chair and sits down on the kitchen floor in a $4,000 suit and puts his face in his hands. Aria and Elle watch him from the breakfast table. Zion picks up his orange juice and drinks it. Viola is in a 7 a.m. strategy session at Nova Capital's Hudson Yards headquarters when her assistant steps in and tells her that her personal cell phone has been ringing continuously from a number she does not recognize. She steps into the hallway. A small voice answers, careful and deliberate. Zion tells her it is him, that he is calling from Patricia's phone, that he sent her some pictures the night before. He asks if she got them. She tells him she has not checked that account. He tells her to check it, that it is important, that he thinks someone was mean to her and he found the proof. She checks it. She and Denise go through all 47 screenshots in Viola's locked office with the blinds closed. It takes 2 hours. When they finish, Denise is quiet for a long time. She tells Viola that this is everything, 6 years of transfers, the fake records Stephanie built to frame her, the exit protocol she had set up as her escape route. Viola tells her it is authentic, that she can see it in the account structure. These are real Harmon Capital internal records. Denise looks at the stack of screenshots and says quietly that a 6-year-old got inside one of the largest private real estate firms in New York. Viola tells her yes, a 6-year-old who is her son. She picks up her phone. She calls the FBI Financial Crimes Division tip line. She uploads the screenshots through their secure portal. She does not give her name. Then she calls Christine Obi. She tells her she needs to file an emergency custody modification petition. Today, the SEC investigation moves faster than anyone expects because the screenshots give federal investigators an exact map of where to look. On April 3, 2034, federal agents execute a search warrant on Harmon Capital's headquarters. On April 9th, they execute a second warrant on Stephanie Cole's Tribeca apartment. She is arrested at 6:42 the morning in her building lobby, waiting for a car service when 2 FBI agents walk in behind her and say her name. The charges: securities fraud, wire fraud, embezzlement of company funds, and obstruction of justice. The federal indictment is 47 pages. The $900 million she had moved over 7 years is frozen within 24 hours of her arrest. The fabrication of evidence against Viola Jones Harmon is described in detail on pages 12 through 19. Derek reads those pages in his attorney's conference room the afternoon of April 9th. He reads them 3 times. Then he tells his attorney to contact Christine Obi's office. The mediation session is held on April 14th, 2034 at a neutral mediation firm in Midtown. Viola arrives with Christine Obi on her left and Denise Washington on her right. She is wearing a black blazer, and she has not slept more than 4 hours in 3 days, and it does not show at all. Derek arrives with 2 attorneys. He looks a decade older than the last time she saw him in person. They sit across from each other for the first time since February 2028. 6 years, 2 months, 6 days. Derek opens his mouth. Viola slides a folder across the table and tells him to read it first, then talk. Inside the folder, her terms: clean, specific, not negotiable. Full physical and legal custody of Zion, Aria, and Elle transferred to Viola Jones, effective immediately. Derek receives structured visitation every other weekend, alternating school holidays, court-monitored for the first 12 months. Derek issues a formal written statement clearing Viola's name, to be distributed to Bloomberg, the Wall Street Journal, CNBC, and the Financial Times. Derek cooperates fully with federal prosecutors as a witness against Stephanie Cole. Harmon Capital sells its 3 remaining Hudson Yards commercial properties to Nova Capital at a price set by Nova's independent appraiser. Derek's senior attorney leans over and whispers. Derek listens without looking away from the folder. Then he picks up the pen. He signs every page. He looks up at Viola and tells her he is sorry, that he knows that is. She tells him she knows. She picks up her copy of the folder. She stands up. She leaves. She does not look back. It is 4 days after the mediation agreement is signed. April 18th, 2034, 2 in the afternoon. Viola is in a board meeting at Nova Capital's Hudson Yards headquarters when her assistant knocks on the glass conference room door and holds up 3 fingers. Viola pauses mid-sentence. She steps into the hallway and asks 3 what? Her assistant tells her 3 children arrived in a town car, that the boy gave the receptionist her alumni email to confirm it, that he said that is how she could verify he was her son. Viola is already walking. She takes the elevator down 2 floors. The doors open into the Nova Capital lobby, wide, open, marble floors, afternoon light coming off the Hudson in long, flat angles across the room. They are standing near the reception desk in a line. Aria, then Elle, then Zion. They are in their school uniforms. Aria is holding her journal against her chest with both arms. Elle has her backpack on both shoulders, straps properly adjusted, centered, prepared. Zion has his hands in his trouser pockets, and he is looking at the floor. When he hears the elevator, he looks up. He has his mother's eyes. Aria moves first, then Elle. They are both running across the marble, and Viola is on her knees before she decides to be, and she has both of them, and they are real, and they are here, and 6 years is a long time, and it is also somehow no time at all. Zion crosses the lobby at his own pace. He stops in front of her. He looks at her face the way he always has, seriously, without looking away. He reaches into the inside pocket of his school blazer and takes out the Forbes cover page, still folded into quarters. The creases are soft from weeks of being carried against his chest. He holds it out. He tells her he kept it. Viola takes it from him with one hand. The other arm pulls him in. Every person in the Nova Capital lobby has stopped moving. The receptionist is no longer pretending to look at her computer. 2 analysts who were crossing the lobby with coffee cups have stopped walking and are standing with their cups held mid-air. Nobody speaks. Nobody moves. The light off the Hudson comes through the west-facing windows and falls across all 4 of them on the marble floor, and it is the kind of moment that people who were in that lobby will describe in detail for the rest of their lives. 6 months later, October 2034, Sunday morning, Prospect Heights, Brooklyn. Viola's apartment on the 18th floor of a building that Nova Capital happens to own. The apartment is loud. Aria is reading the latest entry from her journal aloud to Denise, who is making faces at the dramatic parts. Elle is reading a book and correcting both of them on factual inaccuracies without looking up. Zion is at the kitchen table with his laptop, the one Viola bought him, the one with the parental controls he navigated around in 4 days, the one she pretends she does not know, about working on something he describes as just a project and will not elaborate further. Marcus Solomon is arguing with the coffee machine. He visits every Sunday morning. He has not successfully operated the coffee machine once in 6 months. Christine Obi is on the couch reviewing documents because she does not know how to not work on Sundays. Denise is burning toast, again. Viola is standing at the kitchen window. Brooklyn stretches south below her crown heights, visible past the rooftops, the slim rectangle of Manhattan across the river, and somewhere in that skyline, the upper floors of 3 buildings that Nova Capital acquired in the Hudson Yards settlement. Hers, earned, not given. Her phone buzzes on the counter. A Bloomberg terminal alert. Nova Capital Group crosses $6.1 billion in total assets under management. Youngest black woman-founded real estate investment firm in New York history to reach this threshold. She sets the phone face down on the counter. Then Zion tells her he thinks he found something interesting in the city's public property tax assessment database. She says his name. Just his name. He tells her he is just looking, that he is not clicking anything. She reminds him that is what he said last time. Aria bursts out laughing. Elle smiles without lifting her eyes from her book. Denise burns a second piece of toast. Marcus Solomon raises both arms in triumph over the coffee machine. Viola turns from the window. She looks at all of it. Her kitchen, her children, her people, her city outside the window, and her name on the skyline. 3 kids, 1 empire. A city she was born in, and lost, and fought 6 years to come back to. She could not ask for more.